Whoever you are, and wherever you may be, and whatever you are doing, the chances are that somebody, somewhere, is taking an interest in your activities. And this is what we understand by surveillance. The surveillance society is a society made up of data users and data collectors who gather data for the purposes of governance, control, and also for the purpose of profit. Since September the 11th, there's been an unprecedented increase in the level of surveillance. And most of the research in this area takes its starting point from the work of Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault was a French philosopher who died in 1984 of AIDS. At that time, he was professor of the history of systems of thought at the very prestigious Collège de France in Paris. Michel Foucault believed that in the middle of the 16th century, the state as we know it emerged, and the state took responsibility for the totality, for the whole society. And the state gathered data on people, such as in the form of birth certificates, death certificates, unemployment statistics and passports, to identify if it was possible to see any threat to the totality. During this time, a whole series of new disciplinary technologies emerged, and top of the list was what Foucault called the panopticon. Now, the panopticon was an annular, a round building, in which there was a central courtyard containing a tower and one guard, and this one guard could look into any cell around the building. Foucault believed that if a person was under surveillance, if they were being watched, they were much more likely to behave in a way that you and I consider to be normal. Since the early 1990s, the United Kingdom has been a world leader in CCTV, with approximately 1.4 million cameras in the United Kingdom, which works out roughly at one camera for every 14 people. Now, given that these cameras are not randomly distributed across the country, that they're much more likely to be found in urban areas rather than in rural areas, and that within urban areas they're much more likely to be in city centres rather than in the suburbs, there are some people who are continuously under surveillance. This makes the United Kingdom one of the most watched places on Earth. And if you've had a chance to have a look at Google Earth, then you've got to ask yourself, if Google Earth is readily available to people, then what type of surveillance does the state have? Data surveillance, for example, takes the form of collecting little pieces of residual information about individuals and compiling them on a large database. Examples would include things like whenever you use your credit card, or for instance, if you have a loyalty card. Surveillance can also draw upon a rich variety of different forms of technology. One of the most effective and most controversial technological uses of surveillance is the radio frequency ID tag. This was first used in the United Kingdom in 2003 by Tesco. In one of their Cambridge stores, they placed a radio tag into packets of Gillette Mach 3 razor blades. This was to stop shoplifting, but Tesco soon found that the tags could be used to monitor the movement of people around the store, allowing Tesco to redesign their stores in order that people could be monitored in terms of their use of space within that store. The European Central Bank is considering incorporating such a tag into the euro note. This would allow the bank to monitor the use of notes and to follow them around Europe. This would make it extremely difficult to counterfeit the note, because the tag is also a very smart barcode, and in addition it would prevent money laundering. Other forms of surveillance take the form of mobile phone triangulation, which was central in the successful prosecution of Ian Huntley, the Shaun murderer, in 2002. Personal video recorders such as TiVo or Sky Plus that watch what you are watching in order to monitor what you might want to record in future. And also hypertext transmission protocol cookies, HTTP cookies, which are downloaded onto your computer. One of the classic examples of effective surveillance by the use of a HTTP cookie is that used by Google. Sergey Brin, one of the founders of Google, who invented the PageRank algorithm, also invented a cookie which is downloaded onto your computer when you first use Google. This cookie, I am told, has a shelf life of 35 years and monitors your use of the internet. It monitors which websites you go to, how often you spend on them. This information is collected by Google because they argue they would like the information to make the search more effective, so that when you use the internet and you use the Google search engine, what you are looking for appears on the list. However, Google are not the only people who are surveilling us in this manner. There's a whole range of private companies such as doubleclick.com, 207.net, touchclarity.com, and what these companies do is they're involved in the same activity, downloading a cookie onto your computer without your knowledge or consent to monitor your use of the internet. The data that they collect about you is then sold to private companies, and private companies use this primarily for marketing purposes, but because they are the owners of this information, they can use it however they wish. The consequence for us as sociologists is that it is now no longer possible to theorise or research areas such as power, authority or control without making reference to surveillance.